Hey everyone, we are Bean and Bagel. We are a married couple from the Midwest in the US. I'm from Michigan, she's from Minnesota. Together we normally talk about food on our channel and we post videos 1 to 2 times a week if you're interested in following our channel. We're glad to have you. Today we're talking about Goldfish and their new crisps. This is salt and vinegar, and we also have sour cream and onion that we're going to talk about a little later. We're going to start with the salt and vinegar. We did do a Goldfish video a long time ago, maybe a couple years ago, so if you are a Goldfish fan and you want to check that out, we'll put the link in the description below. But let's get going on the salt and vinegar, and I'm going to start sucking on these fish.
So even just the smell of the salt and vinegar goldfish brings me back to yesterday, actually, because this guy was making me a lovely vinegar stew. I don't know if anybody else's husbands are like very much into like tinkering with things around the house or being creative or trying to find like home remedies, but he definitely is. So yesterday he was trying to boil paint off of a little metal thing because he read online that would help get paint off of something. So he was like boiling this thing in the house for like 2 hours and our whole entire house smelled like vinegar. And it was very, very strong. And yeah, that was a lot. And then the other thing that he's done is he has made a lovely sock stew. So you can like make your whites whiter if you like boil your, socks or whatever in baking soda on the stove. So one time I had like come home from wherever I was and walked in the kitchen like, hey, what are you making? It like smelled a little off, but I was like, what's he doing, And like, he's just like stirring a pot.
With my socks in it.
It was like his socks. I was like, what is happening?
She's probably thinking I'm making dinner and I'm over there just stirring my socks. But
yeah, it was kind of like a witch, with her pot.
yeah, it was like a witching stew, totally. Kind of had that vibe because you're just like mixing it and it's bubbly and foamy because of the baking soda or whatever. And then the steam's coming off and I'm just like, it was funny.
Yeah.
But getting back to the goldfish, I tried the salt and vinegar one, and on our channel we do a review called Try It or Walk By It. I'm gonna say that the flavor to me kind of disappears. Usually I like salt and vinegar chips, and with these I feel like the flavor just kind of disappears. And it kind of reminds me of when you're in church and you take communion and they give you that wafer that's flavorless, but every now and then you might be the lucky member of the church that gets the flavored one. And that's kind of what these remind me of. They're kind of very airy and you might get some flavor sometimes, but it doesn't last. So for those reasons, I'm gonna say walk by the salt and vinegar one.
Yeah, I agree. I think the texture is very good. It is really crunchy and crisp and airy, but the flavor kind of disappears after like a couple seconds. And I agree, like I'm a big fan of salt and vinegar. I don't necessarily buy it all the time, but this isn't very strong compared to like most salt and vinegar chips. And I just think it's one of those things where it's like, you taste it and it doesn't work on like the cracker because it ends up tasting like a saltine that has some vinegar on it. Whereas like I think the salt and vinegar lends itself much better on like a potato chip. That's my opinion. So I would say walk by it. But next up we have the sour cream and onion. So I'm going to check these ones out.
My relationship with goldfish in general, not the cracker, the actual fish, has been kind of hit or miss, up and down. I don't know what the right way to describe it is, but when I was a kid, the only time I actually had a goldfish as a pet, you know, I was probably, I don't know, elementary school, junior high, somewhere in that range. And the poor guy died by suicide. I woke up one morning and he was on the ground, and there was no explanation as to what happened other than he jumped out of his bowl and cashed it in. So I don't know if that was like a traumatic experience for me, because then as I grew older, you know, I also owned like piranhas and different kind of fish that eat other fish. And the only other experience I had with goldfish was to feed them to piranhas. So I don't know if that was like a really traumatic experience for me, that the poor guy died by suicide, but that's my experience with goldfish.
You're like, I don't want you to die that way, so I'll just feed you to another bigger fish.
It was almost like I was so traumatized I had to dictate the way they died or something, maybe.
I do feel like every little kid has some sort of like traumatic like fish story, you know, where like the fish dies after 3 days, and then the parents have to like have these like conversations about like death and grief with their child, and like why they had to flush little Jimmy down the toilet, and
he just fell asleep and we had to send him to a sleep study in the toilet.
Right. Like, yes, that's funny though. It can be traumatic. But anyways, back to the goldfish crackers. I actually think that these are really good. The flavor is nice and strong with the sour cream and onion, and it still has the nice light airy texture that we talked about, with like still being really crunchy. They seem like they're actually like hollow on the inside, and for me, I feel like it's one of those snacks where you could just like eat a lot of them because they are so like airy and light. You can probably just eat like a whole bag of them, but I do really like the flavor, strong with the onion, and then it has like a tiny bit of like an herb on there too. So I would say try them.
I'm gonna say that the sour cream and onion kind of remind me of chicken and a biscuit, but obviously they don't taste like chicken. If you've ever had the cracker chicken and a biscuit, they got this kind of like seasoning or something that it has its own kind of unique texture or feel in your mouth and on your fingers, and that's kind of what I get with these. But I like the flavor of them, and I think that they're something you could snack on and kind of continue to keep eating, because you get enough of the flavoring of it. Unlike the salt and vinegar ones, it doesn't disappear. So I'm gonna say try it. But that's our video for today. We're glad that you joined us upstream to follow the little fishies into our mouths, and we hope to see you in the next video in the future, and hope you have a good day. See you later.
Bye.